So we're going to be talking about TwitchCon. TwitchCon. So before I get into conventions, I think that there's a lot of, I love talking about conventions. I've been to a lot of anime conventions, gaming conventions, tons of other conventions. When I lived in the US for a period of time, probably about 5 or 6 years, I would go to about 5 or 6 conventions a year. Now, I know what most people think when they think of conventions, and this is not entirely inaccurate, right? Of course, we have the famous rainforest, right, where we had ambulances, $100,000 in damage, police bus, because a bunch of furries decided to get crazy and start throwing dry diapers and pool and doing all sorts of other crazy stuff. And frankly, and I get that, and that's a fair criticism. And there are conventions that go the way of rainforest, and there are times in which you're seeing these things go down. That's not necessarily all conventions. Some conventions do go right. Some conventions are run well. They have good events. They have good people that attend who behave themselves, are respectful, clean up after themselves. There are many conventions, in fact I'd say most conventions, that are great because the volunteers are great, the people are great, the fans are great. They can go really, really well, or they can have a ball pit and people can get injured, right? And I like this response here, which is sex stuff is pretty much at every con. You have to seek it out though, and it's kind of kept to appropriate areas. If people are doing things in public, you need to get they need to go to those kinds of cons, like you said. Yeah, well, once again, I will say a lot of that stuff, closed doors, doesn't happen in public. Although, do some people go there for that specific intent? Absolutely. Do some people go there for bad intent? Absolutely. Which brings us around to TwitchCon, right? Which brings us around to TwitchCon. So going into TwitchCon, you need to understand that there are people that are going to go into, and we're going to watch this video. This is by Mujin. Now, also, he did a great video on this and highly suggest it, which is why we're going to watch it because it's got great background here. But people do go to these things with intentions that may not align with your intentions. And that's where trouble happens, whether it's harassment, whether it's photos that really are uncomfortable, or people that just walk up and grab you and take a photo and they didn't ask your permission or whatever else. Or maybe they walk up and they grab your cosplay and you didn't tell them they could do that. It happens like that. And beyond that, when you go to certain things like TwitchCon or creator cons, you have parasocialism. So you have a big issue of both fans thinking they know their content creator in a certain way and doing things they think are appropriate that are wildly inappropriate. And also even content creators viewing it like a chance to move up, to rank up, to meet somebody and gain clout, to become bros with a big person, right? To somehow hit it off with somebody and get in a network and in a circle and level up, right? Now, I will say that is probably pretty rare. That's probably pretty rare to happen, where you're going to all of a sudden like bump into somebody, they're going to be your best bro at a convention, and you're going to all of a sudden get put on their channel, and you're a 500 follower YouTube streamer or 200 follower Twitch streamer, and you're all of a sudden going to go on a channel with a million views, whatever else, and you're going to become a star. The chances of that happening are pretty rare. In fact, these people typically, you're typically going to go to a convention hanging out with your friends, hanging out with people that are on the same level as you. If you're a content creator, you're probably going to hang out with other content creators because it's generally safer. Of course, there are people that don't exercise this due caution. And as we're going to see as part of this story, I think one of the things that you should know going to this is not just to respect the boundaries of your Oshis, of the people that you are watching, but if you're a content creator, because I know many VTubers watch me, many smaller indies as well, be very careful about the way you approach people and make sure you're respectful, make sure you're thoughtful, make sure you understand that they may not want to be buddies or bros with you or sisters with you the way you want to be with them. So make sure you're respecting their boundaries when you're at these conventions, because I feel like a lot of these problems happen because people are trying to blur boundaries, right? And there's a lot of legal issues that can come, including criminal charges. Look, if you sexually harass somebody, if you touch somebody, if you assault them, that's going to be something that is criminal, particularly if it's in the United States. All right. So let's listen to what happened at the TwitchCon 2024. This is once again Mujin. Fully recommend his video. Go over there, like his video, subscribe to his channel. He's a great guy. I know he watches my channel sometimes and looks at my content. So turnabout is fair play when I use his summaries because he has some really good background here.
TwitchCon is the biggest streamer convention held yearly. It's also ridiculously expensive, but guys, don't worry, it's worth it. I mean, you get to meet your role models, your idols, the people you look up to, your favorite streamers. But if you happen to go as the streamer, it's even better because you're getting to meet up with your wonderful fans and your coworkers.
By the way, just as a comment here on these prices, this is not this is like pretty normal to me from what I see of most convention prices nowadays. I do think this is expensive, but there's like, especially if you're having a con in like California, right? The costs are going to be ridiculous. I've seen the budgets of conventions. They're usually not making a ton of money. So this is probably even subsidized. But yeah, it's expensive, but it's about normal for what I see.
You also get to be directly harassed on stream by someone trying to get some clout.
See, this is fucking disgusting. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. And this is, once again, this is assault. See, even the is Nick, actually, sorry, my avatar's in the way. The title there you can see is Nick and Wake get assaulted. This guy is literally licking his nipple. He is licking his nipple. Like, that's not okay. It's fucking disgusting. What are you doing? Like, do you really think that you're going to become famous because you like went up and like must like lick somebody's nipple? Like you're going to be that guy? But whatever that is, look, whatever this is fucking unwanted. It's unnecessary, right? Keep your hands to yourself, keep your mouth to yourself, keep your appendages to yourself. Completely unwarranted.
Yes, this popular streamer is getting his nipple kissed without his consent. That's right. TwitchCon, everybody. Make sure to come next year. Yeah, there was a lot of harassment this year. It was a disaster, guys.
The amount of clips I've seen of Kick streamers harassing people at TwitchCon is insane. I feel like the main thing stopping the platform from succeeding are some people on it. Well, once again, this is now from a liability standpoint, this is partly on TwitchCon and Twitch. If they can't adequately protect people, they need to start doing a better job of screening, a better job of like just kicking people out, like in general, and also like who gets in and who gets out, right? Just need to look and see, hey, look, if this person is a nuisance streamer, like look up their name. And if they're a nuisance streamer, like you need to ban them from the con, right? So I'm sorry, if they come up and they're a Johnny Somali type streamer, just fucking ban them from the convention. Like they just can't come in, period. I think cons have a duty to, if they know their name, they know who they are, they know their like online handles. It's basic due diligence. Just fucking ban them. Right. And at some point when somebody gets hurt, because these people, these nuisance streamers are constantly going to do crazier shit, it's going to be a bigger legal issue. And that's going to come on Twitch. That's going to come back on Twitch because they are responsible for the safety and security of that event.
As it was so many streamers got harassed. People ran after them, trying to make their own content. It was really pathetic. But ignore all that. It's just noise. As we know, the convention itself is nothing more than an excuse to just go to San Diego with all your fellow streamers and party like there's no tomorrow. This isn't just exclusive to TwitchCon. Every convention kind of works that way. As a streamer, the real way to grow your network, meet new friends, and create new business opportunities doesn't happen in the convention itself. It happens behind closed doors.
This is a little bit, actually, I'm going to dissent on this. So Mujin is saying that the real business happens behind closed doors. No, not at all. I really disagree with this. So I think that nothing significant about your career as a VTuber or a streamer or even a flesh tuber or whatever else will come of a convention. Conventions are not going to blow up your career. The only thing a convention will do, it is two things. Okay? It is two things. It has a chance to completely ruin your career. And we're going to talk about how it can completely ruin your career. It can completely destroy your career, right? Or it's an opportunity to relax. And only if you do it right. If you do it wrong, it's going to become a nightmare that is not relaxing at all. But if you do it right and you're safe and whatever else, it can be an opportunity to relax and chill and maybe interact with fans if you want, if that's enjoyable for you, right? Some people, that's a nightmare. They don't want to interact with people face to face, but it can destroy you totally. And one of the things, especially for VTubers, which a lot of people need to read their contracts, particularly agency VTubers. This is a special warning for those that are in agencies. Going to a convention could, under certain circumstances, violate your contract. For example, if your contract says do not dox yourself and you dox yourself inadvertently at a convention, if it's only because a kick streamer comes up, sees your name tag that says I'm Andrew VTuber, and pulls your mask off or whatever, and somebody takes a photo, right? Because there's that instant where they yank your mask off or yank your costume or whatever, and somebody takes a photo of you, doxes you, right? That could violate the provision of your contract, which might say, hey, you need to keep your identity secret. And that is a clause I've seen in many different agencies' contracts, not just one, but different agencies. And I've reviewed a lot, including a lot I don't talk about publicly because I keep it confidential. There's many, many contracts. In fact, I can say I reviewed a new contract this week for a VTuber, right? There's a lot going on. You need to be very careful, and you don't want to ruin your career because you decided, hey, I want to go get fucking drunk at TwitchCon, right? It's safer to do that with your friends, to people that you know, other content creators, and people that respect those boundaries. Let's continue.
In the parties or hotel rooms, but we're not here to talk about that. There are so many parties and mixers and lunches and dinners. It's ridiculous. But now imagine being a smaller streamer and getting access to a party that is highly exclusive.
So this is the controversial party. This is the party by Blurp and Meld, right? Meld Studio and Blurp. So we're going to go into this one. This is really the one that created the main problem here of this issue. And this is the one that's we're going to talk about. But I'm trying to extract this to a broader sense. It isn't just about Blurp, right? Because Blurp fucked up here for sure, 100%. But this is not something that's unique to TwitchCon. Right? This can happen at any convention, anywhere, even smaller conventions.
Top DJ performers and an RSVP list that is checked on a
if your party is run by P. Diddy, you perhaps should not attend.
Case-by-case basis to see whether you're famous enough to attend and you somehow get approved. You'll meet large creators, successful creators that you might be a mega fan of. This is a dream come true. And I'm sure you'd be expecting the party of a lifetime. You surely wouldn't be expecting someone to spike your drink with a very powerful drug when you're not looking. The point where you can't even move your lips at some point because your entire body is limp. You also wouldn't be expecting the fire marshals to show up because somehow this exclusive party with very limited space got overcrowded. And finally, you also wouldn't be expecting the party organizer to find your post on Twitter complaining about this and double down while being extremely defensive and making a complete clown out of himself. Yeah, these things actually happened. It's a catastrophe. So let's talk about it. So as I mentioned, when it comes to conventions, it's really just all about the parties happening around it. But when you go to a convention...
That's not necessarily true. I mean, to be honest, you can go to a convention because you want to make a presentation, you want to make a speech, you want to interact with your fans, you want to buy merch, you want to meet somebody, you want to get an autograph, you want to get a photograph. Honestly, to be honest, I don't go to, and I never went to conventions solely for the parties, right? I think if I was going to go somewhere solely for partying, I would just do that with my friends. I wouldn't go to a convention for that. Right. However, some of the conventions do have a side benefit of having good parties and good events, etc. But that wasn't the sole reason why I went. Right. I think that's a weird reason. Just if you're just going to the parties.
As a VTuber, it's not really
Also,
as straightforward as a normal streamer going there. One of the main reasons why they are VTubers in the first place is for anonymity. They want to keep their real identity secret. So they'll either go there virtually, meeting up their fans through a screen, or they'll go physically, but make sure to wear a mask or a cap or sunglasses or something to stay incognito and only take off these things with people they trust, with friends who understand their situation. This is why they can't just go to any party at TwitchCon, right? Because not all of them understand their precarious situation of having to stay anonymous. People could be streaming there, taking pictures, whatever. They have to go to a party that understands privacy. That's where this highly exclusive party came in, called the After Party Blurp X Meld. It was hosted on Thursday, September 19th from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. It was a private event. You would have to register on this website and hope that they approve you because they would look at everyone from a case-by-case basis.
That's good. And honestly, I'm a fan of making your part. If you're going to make an after party, you need to make that thing super exclusive and be careful because you are liable. So from a legal sense with these after parties, both, in fact, if this is a sponsored after party, then Twitch is also responsible, right? Because it's TwitchCon. If it's sponsored, if it's an unofficial after party, then the host is legally responsible. So in this case, it would be Blurp and Meld. I actually don't know to what extent Twitch acknowledged this one or blessed it. If it was, for example, on their official events list, that would probably be enough to imply liability if something really fucked up happened. And make no mistake, if there's a problem and there's a lawsuit, the lawyers are going to sue everybody. They're going to sue Twitch anyways. But what I'm saying is, in terms of actually being able to get them to pay out or at least to settle, if it's an official event, the liability is going to be a little bit more strong, right? In that case, it doesn't mean it's an open and shut case. Doesn't mean Twitch is always going to be responsible or the convention would always be responsible. But that's one of the big distinctions if you're running a after party, right? So you might want to consider, if you want to make it something that kind of doesn't burden the convention, making it unofficial, right? If it's official, you get the burden of them sponsoring you, but they also get to have some say in security and procedures, right? Oftentimes, if it's an official after party, they'll require you to have a ticket to the event. So you'll have to have a TwitchCon ticket, right? Now they were trying to be even more exclusive and only let in creators, but that didn't really work out for a multitude of reasons.
And yes, the amount of followers you had and the amount of viewers you would get played a big role in whether you would get accepted or not. There were exceptions, of course, just like any party, but you definitely had to be a Twitch partner minimum. Because let's see the description. It says, the TwitchCon partner after party, come hang with some of the top creators and brands in the industry. Enjoy music with Twitch's top DJ creators in the main lobby or relax on the rooftop terrace to network and meet other creators and brands. And then they add, we have zero tolerance for physical, verbal, or sexual harassment. This includes non-consensual touching, violence, discriminatory language, or any behaviors that have a negative impact on the experience or the physical safety of other guests.
So real quick, though, this is, of course, legal language. I'm sure they had somebody put this up. Of course, everyone's going to say we have zero tolerance, but the point is, are you enforcing this? If you say you have zero tolerance, then you need to enforce zero tolerance, right? So that's... you're going to have a policy, you need to enforce it. That's a huge thing.
If a problem or concern arises, guests are encouraged to locate a staff member for assistance. While on the dance floor, we encourage guests to keep conversations to a minimum and phones in their pockets. Just keep this paragraph in mind because it'll be even funnier later, okay? So from the rules, it says 21 plus must show ID at the door. No streaming inside the venue. This is a very important thing for VTubers who want to stay anonymous and not...
Right. And once again, they say that, but frankly, I'm of the mind. This is my personal opinion, and I know some of you don't like this. Some of you are going to get mad at me when I say this, but I think for a lot of events, particularly if there's VTubers, they need to confiscate phones, right? Especially if people are going to be there without a mask or whatever else, they need to be like, all right, check your phones at the door. And they put them in a fucking Faraday bag or whatever, or they can give you a little Faraday bag or whatever that's going to cut it, and you have to wait till you get out to unseal it. But frankly, there's too much risk, and once again, you're putting yourself at a huge risk if doxing is dangerous for you, right? If you're in, not just for VTubers, for other streamers as well. If doxing is dangerous for you, then they need to be very, 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 very careful, right? And take that very, very seriously.
Get caught in someone's stream. Ones are allowed, but must have their own accepted RSVP as well, which should be a good thing because it means that no one random is going to be showing up as a +1 either. Everyone is going to be vetted manually. Keep all of this in mind for later. So this is hosted by Blurp and Meld Studio. Meld Studio is nothing more than the sponsor Blurp was partnering with, but this is really Blurp's party. This wasn't really the first time Blurp had made a TwitchCon type party. He had made 2 last year during TwitchCon 2023 in Las Vegas, and they were successes, as far as I can tell. The first one being a masquerade event, and the second one being a paid VIP party. So Blurp is someone with an established reputation. This is why people had high expectations and so many high-profile VTubers went there. It unfortunately ended in complete disaster. Now, this all started when Hades, a VTuber from the Mythos agency,
Once again, I don't know the Mythos agency's contract. I don't think I've seen that one. But that said, she could have a risk. Anybody else with an agency, I haven't seen their contract. So they could have a risk of their identity. So if someone roofies them, and even if they don't, assault them, let's say all they do when they roofie a VTuber is they pull down their mask and they take a photo of them, right? That's just as bad. And sorry, I said that wrong. Let me be very, I don't want people are going to take that out of context. It's bad it's bad in general, right? It's not comparative, right? You can't compare one type of assault to another type of assault, but to dox someone is bad. I would say even it should be criminal, right? As a form of harassment, right? And I think in California, with the way their harassment statute is written, I think they could even have some criminal repercussions there, because that's intentionally trying to target them for the purpose of harassment, right? So I think that could even be criminal, right? If they did something like that, right? Which, once again, these are special VTuber considerations, and these are some of the cons, or at least the things you need to be careful of as a VTuber.
Made one tweet saying, "I think I was drugged at the bar." She then clarified,
So, I mean, that's concerning right there.
With this tweet saying, "An update. I am awake now. We don't know what actually happened to me last night other than I just wasn't okay. I was in no state to go to the hospital as I don't have insurance, and so I did not receive any tests to see if I had something in my system."
I will say this is kind of fucked up, and this is one of the things that is really, 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 really sad, right? Is that when people will not go and get help because they don't have insurance. That's just, it really sucks. And one of the things that really sucks about the VTubing industry is that everybody is an independent contractor, so they don't really have access a lot of times to health insurance and other things like that, which are, basic health necessities, like checking whether you've been roofied shouldn't be something you prevent yourself from going in. I'm over here in Asia, but I go to the doctor all the time. I go to the doctor if there's a minor problem, like even with or without insurance, I'd still go to the doctor, right? But that's because the costs are affordable and I can pay out of pocket and it's not a problem. This is a serious issue. And I would say, look, don't let, I know the costs are serious, but you should really take your health in the high consideration to check things like this out. And also, yes, you're right. If she'd gone to law enforcement, they would have ordered the test, which wouldn't cost anything. That's a very good point. Very good point there. If she'd gone to law enforcement, they would have gotten or reported it. They would have gotten the test. That's a very, very, very good point.
Suspect my drink may have been spiked due to how sick and horrible and drunk I felt after only 2 drinks, even 3 to 4 hours out from leaving the bar. I felt very wrong and overall not okay. I was in a terrible headspace and honestly should not have been tweeting, and I apologize for anyone I may have worried. Thankfully, my friends took care of me, so I am safe no matter what caused me to feel that way. So this probably happened in a bar around downtown, not too far from where TwitchCon was being held.
My girl Sayu here. Shout out to Sayu, big Sayu love. So glad you're okay. Crazy things are bound to happen. So you all did well to combat it. Always best to go with friends, and glad you looked out for each other. Smart move here for that. Also, Rima, we got our favorite horse girl here saying, "Thank God you're all right. Hope you get some rest there." So big love for my girl Sayu and Rima there.
Held, and it's a very unfortunate reality. This is why you have to keep your eye on your drink at all times, and even then, it's not enough sometimes. That's why you're meant to be with friends, and that's exactly what Hades had done. She was with a bunch of different VTubers from Mythos, and they were able to get her out of there safely. And thankfully, nothing crazy had happened. But then, all of a sudden, Imuki, a different VTuber, quote-tweeted that update from Hades and said this: "I was also roofied last night at a VIP party. I'm safe and okay. Had a wonderful group of friends to help me. Stay safe, gamers, and cover your drinks."
So now this is different, because then you get at the VIP party, right? But when you start to have a trend here, it might even be the same dude, right? Or woman. Once again, I'm not trying to assume it's a man necessarily. It could be a woman. Who knows, right? You never know, right? Man, woman, whatever, right? Person who is doing this.
Now, all of a sudden, this isn't just some random bar. This is a VIP party. So as many people were wondering what the hell had happened exactly, Imuki adds this: "I've been roofied before, so I knew the signs. I couldn't move my entire body for a good 40 minutes. Thank for the friends I have, but genuinely Blurb for having drink covers and not giving them out.
Now, this is going to be a controversy that goes back and forth of whether or not they had this or not. Legally, you don't have to have it, right? You don't have to like provide a quote unquote drink cover, right? You should be responsible for your own drink. But that said, if you did have them and not give them out, that would be a super dick move, right? If you actually had drink covers and give them out, right? But legally, do you have to have it? No, right? But once again, this is why my policy is be your own judge, be responsible for yourself, because the only person who can really take care of yourself is yourself at the end of the day. And that's why you have to take these precautions on your own.
I'll talk about it when I get home more, but I'm just shaken up and pissed my friends had to carry my limp body back to the Airbnb when we just wanted to have a nice party. Do better, Blurb. So first off, really unfortunate that you got roofied before and know exactly how it feels. And second off, she was directly saying that this was Blurb's fault for not handing out drink covers when they were already present at the party. Not only is this a massive accusation, but we also confirmed she was talking about the highly exclusive after party hosted by Blurb. Things were getting...
And once again, so if you're roofied at a bar, does the bar, let's talk about liability for a second. So I want to, once again, we do entertainment education. If you're roofied at a bar, is the bar liable for what happens to you after you're roofied? Well, that's a very good question. If they exercise ordinary care and reasonable care and they're not negligent, then no, they're not going to be responsible, right? So if they act like a normal bar would, then no, even if you're roofied there, they don't have an absolute duty to protect you against people doing crazy criminal shit. People are going to do crazy criminal shit, right? And sometimes there's genuinely nothing they can do to prevent that, right? Also, like was even mentioned by Lenmar, it is hard to detect these things. These things are getting smaller. They're able to be smuggled in, right, relatively easily. So the fact that they were able to sneak it in, it's hard for security to stop people from getting these things inside, right? It's very, very difficult for that. So you do need to stay safe yourself. However, here's the turn. If they were not exercising normal care, or if they knew there was a risk and they just let that risk happen, then they could be liable. And also, if they didn't do something that was easy to do to fix the problem, and they could have, right? Like, for example, if they had drink covers, they intentionally didn't give them out, right? Well, that might be an issue there, right? If there was something that happened, let's say somebody got in an accident, somebody got assaulted, right? There was a crime that was committed, right? There could be some liability there. But yes, you are an adult. You do have to take care of yourself, but there's the law as well.
Serious now. A couple days later, after Mookie went back home and had time to process, she finally posts her statement. Here's what it had to say. My statement about being roofied at the 2024 Friday TwitchCon.
And understand, by the way, understand if this is actually legally. So, sorry, let me explain this. If you are forcing something into somebody's body without their consent, that's the same as if you touched them without your consent or you did something else without their consent. You're literally drugging someone, right? Poisoning someone, right? It doesn't matter that it's invisible versus visible. There's no really difference between somebody poisoning you and stabbing you with a knife in terms of they're impacting your body, right? Again, without your consent, right? In a way that injures you.
Blurb VIP party, trigger warning. To start with, this was mostly a VTuber party full of larger creators not wearing their usual facial disguises and coverings, meaning we all thought it was a safe space to vibe and meet other creators. And it was, for a little. About 2 hours into it, the party started getting a bit more crowded, and I remembered thinking I didn't see this many people on the guest list we all registered for. In other words, the security to a VIP party was shit. One of my close friends noticed their water tasted funny and only took a few sips but started feeling off, which I knew was most likely a low-grade roofie. While waiting for their Uber with them, I notified the security guard, who yelled at us for taking up the walkway, shaking my head, that she was most likely roofied. Shortly after she was picked up, it hit me hard. Now, for context, I have been roofied before, so I know how it feels, but this was something much, much more severe. Once I started feeling heavy and unable to read well, I immediately ran to the bartenders, who I befriended, to let them know I'd been roofied and to take precautions. I was informed at that point that they had drink covers and were not handing them out.
Now, if this is true, that's some negligence right there. If they had them and were not handling them out. And also if they knew there was a risk. So if there was already an incident with somebody who'd already been roofied and then they didn't give them out afterwards, then they know that there was a risk and they didn't take a precaution potentially. Once again, that's in where I'm talking about if there was a potential lawsuit. It doesn't look like there's any lawsuits coming out of this, but I'm just doing the illegal analysis as a hypothetical, just so you guys are able to learn and think about the law here as we go through these fact patterns. But once again, if you have a precautionary measure and you don't take it, is it possible that could be negligent? Maybe.
My friends, thank God they were there, had to carry my limp, hyperventilating body out of the party, which was soon blocked off by the fire marshals for overcrowding. For about 2 hours after that, I could only move my mouth, mumbling, and my eyelids. My point in this is that it was a VIP party with major creators there who felt it was a safe environment to demask.
If there's people out there that are roofing people, right, this is a party where there's people that are roofing people. Do you think it's safe at this party for VTubers who might have a severe risk of being doxxed to demask and to walk around just like, hey, dox me or take a photo of me, right? Because how many people are taking secret photos, might have like whatever hidden cams or like whatever else, might be taking video, right? Like if they were able to get in there with that, what else were they able to get in there with?
Had drink covers and did nothing, and security was shit and started letting God knows who in after a few hours. They had a responsibility to take care of us and did not. My con was ruined and I spent the rest of it shaken up and scared to drink anything but water. Do better, blur.
Well, it's not even because even water, actually, that's not even accurate because her friend got roofied when she was drinking water. Literally, it says one of my close friends noticed their water tasted funny. So it's not what you're drinking. It's you need to watch who's around it and you need to make sure that you are watching it. Don't like turn away or whatever else and leave your drink on the table, right? That's going to be a problem.
Just a roofie. This was one hell of a drug. Something wasted.
Yeah, okay. Someone in the chat said bottled water. Yeah, bottled water if you keep putting back on the top. So like you just do like what I do right here with my bottled water, right? So like you're taking a sip of the bottled water, right? Top goes right back on. So there's no point at which the top is not on the bottle, right? But if it's just an open glass of tap water, that's the same as a drink.
Stronger than the usual. And I think regardless of your gender in this situation, I'm sure you can imagine how scary it is to only be able to move your eyelids and your lips barely while the rest of your body stays limp. This is horrible. A complete horror story. But we were only left with more questions. How does a VIP party go so out of control so quickly? What were the fire marshals here for? Well, Blurp felt the need to reply to this post because it went viral. Here's what he had to say. Hey, Amuli, great start. Already misspelling her name. This is the second case we've heard of someone that got their drink spiked, and we're so upset that happened to you and so glad you're recovering okay. Unfortunately, we did not have any drink covers for the party, nor did we communicate that we will have any, but at future parties we will be sure to provide them. Please let us know if there's anything we can do to help you through this. Then Imuki replied. She said, first, it's Imuki. I'm not okay, and even without the drink covers, it was your responsibility at a VIP invite-only party with several big names to make sure the only people allowed in were on the list. Drink covers or not, this is on you. Blurpy did not let this die here. No, he had to reply again, saying, sorry, Imuki, it auto-corrected. Everyone that got in was manually approved by us and our sponsors. The venue capacity was 350 and we only let 325 on the roof, and at one point 15 had to wait for others to leave to get in. There were no plus ones or otherwise that were allowed in without an invitation. We denied nearly 500 plus RSVPs for the event. There was security at check-in to get wristbands, security to get onto the elevators, and security to get onto the roof itself.
But that doesn't mean the security was doing their job. So you can have security that's crawling out the ass, but if they're not doing their job, it doesn't matter, right? I think about times in which I've gone through TSA, and there have been a million TSA agents, and they haven't done their damn job in terms of, what they should be doing at, let's say, airport security, right? You can have a bunch of people who are incompetent, or whether they're maybe directed not to stop people for X, Y, or Z. Maybe they weren't patting people down properly. Maybe they weren't patting people down at all, right?
We absolutely agree we should have had drink covers for all guests. As we stated in our direct message to you, we'd be happy to discuss options to make this right to you and any other guests that were affected. Now, I don't know about you, but this response does sound pretty damn passive-aggressive to me. And it's not the kind of reassuring statement you're meant to give to someone who just got roofied at one of your own parties. Oh yeah, we manually approved every guest on the list. We had security everywhere. Okay, man, that's great. Now, how did a bioweapon make it through your security so easily? A drug that can knock every part of your body out for 2 hours or more. Good to know that you manually approved the person who did this coming into your party. Wonderful job. This only made him look like a clown. I mean, come on.
Manual approval, once again, saying you manually approved it. I wouldn't have said that, because then if it turns out that this person was like a monster or a criminal, well, then you've manually approved a criminal. So I wouldn't have even said that, right? I mean, it just sounds ridiculous.
There's also, of course, no mention of the fire marshals and the overcrowding incident, or the fact that she wasn't the only one who got roofied. Oh, and let's not forget how he ended his statement. We direct messaged you, we'd be happy to discuss it there. So in other words, we'd love for this to quiet down and isolate you so people stop talking about this. This is terrible. I mean, at this point, you're probably wondering, who the hell is Blurpy anyway? And he's just some dude who made this app called Blurp for streamers. It allows you to play sounds during a stream to interact with the streamer and use custom AI text-to-speech voices. Blurpy is pretending like everything is going just fine, posting this on September 27th, asking, hey, who wants a follow? And the tweet before that being, great party, great TwitchCon, thank you all for coming. This post in particular has many replies, angry and disappointed over what had happened in the party. And what's interesting is that you find Blurpy contradicting himself. For example, someone replied with, cultivating a community sounds wonderful. Will those communities be protected from getting roofied at rooftop parties, or maybe actually see the drink covers that were provided and never handed out?
Oof, big oof. I mean, once again, this is what happens after you come out and don't properly address something or don't properly deal with something. You're going to get responses like this. And frankly, like this is a response where, like, he should not be responding to this in this way, right? This just makes him look like a fool, really.
Blurpy replies with this, saying, we've heard of only one case of streamer that may have had their drink spiked. Have you personally heard of any others? This is interesting because she had posted this 2 days before he had posted that reply, calling out Blurp, saying she got roofied. So it's either Blurpy doesn't really know how to count, or there are more and more people coming out.
I actually think they don't know how to count. I mean, most people
out with roofie stories than he can keep track of. Now, FalseSide also made a video on the situation and reached out to Redclaw.
By the way, shout out to False. He did a very good video. I just think Mujin's video had a better job of the comprehensive backstory, so that's why I went with this one, but False's video is good as well. It's the exact same video I played earlier for the part on Iron Mouse. It's just a different segment.
Other VTuber that was at the party. He confirmed some pretty concerning details. Like, for example, security wouldn't look at the bags of anyone entering the party. And this doesn't surprise me one bit. How the QR codes you were given if your RSVP was accepted could be reused, so you could just send them to your friends and they could just reuse them infinitely.
Now that's a serious problem. Now I think that is negligent. So if you create a QR code that can be used infinitely, it's not a QR, you know what I mean? Like, if there's an infinite QR hack, right? That's a really big vulnerability of your system. If someone can just screen cap it and send it out and use it infinitely, it's kind of ridiculous. So, yeah, not negligible, right? That's actually really good, and that's really good reporting on him to follow up with Red Call and get that detail, because that is a really relevant detail. Also, not checking bags, super big risk. In fact, it's a risk for violence, right? You're not checking bags, then people could bring in weapons, guns, knives, whatever, right, to the party. That's exactly what you don't want there in the first place. And why were you even allowing bags? Most places that I've gone to, and I go to a lot of places, I go to bars, I've gone to clubs, I've gone everywhere else, they don't allow you in with a bag. If you came in with a backpack or some sort of luggage, they're going to require you to leave that. They're not going to let you take that in. Many places don't even let you take a coat inside, right? Much less a bag. So that just seems really, once again, these are factors which lead me to believe it's looking more and more and more negligent, more and more sloppy.
How the fire marshal actually did show up because the overcrowding became unbearable. And finally, how in last year's Las Vegas TwitchCon, there was a concerning group of people that would prowl around women and harass them. And now he had seen the same group at Blurp's party this year as well.
So if there's a known group, so did you hear what he just said? There's a known group of people that is harassing women, and Blurp has gone on the record as saying he manually approved everybody. And I get it that Maybe these people aren't like registered offenders, or maybe there was no way to figure it out right easily. But that's why you don't go and say these things, because it makes it sound like you manually approve somebody who might be super problematic, might be a stalker, might be a harasser, etc. Right? And you've now made that statement that you've already manually approved people after, and then this reporting happened and comes out and exposes this. So this is why you have to be very careful about what you say, especially when you're running an event, right? When you're running an event.
Overall, this situation is a complete and utter disaster. Every measure of security during this event was clearly just there for show. But I think the worst thing here, other than the fact that Blurp doesn't really seem to care, is that we still have no idea who caused this. This was a very exclusive VIP party full of top creators, most notably VTubers from Twitch. There was an entire RSVP list with a manual review process. Which one of these people snuck in with an extremely strong drug and got out without being caught? We don't know. And you sure as hell won't catch me drinking anything if I ever go to TwitchCon and hang out in a party. I don't know if Blurpy, whatever the hell his name is, ends up making a party in TwitchCon 2025, which will also be in San Diego, but I sure as hell hope that the security in that event will be more than just a decorative prop. Please.
Yes, that is definitely a hope for that. So that's the dangers of VTubing, the dangers of cons, and why you have to be very careful. So once again, there's the pros and cons of VTubing, and one of the cons is there are specific risks for you beyond just the risks that everybody has going to a con, like covering your drink. That's for everybody. But if you're a VTuber, you also have to pay attention to doxing, harassment, stalking, things that can happen, and that can happen to content creators, large or small.